June 12, 1991. Glenwood National Park, Oregon. You for days. Before we dive in, if you're passionate about real-life mysteries, cold cases, and jaw-dropping true stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. We uncover what others leave buried. Eli Turner was the kind of kid you don't forget. Bright blue eyes, bowl haircut, always the first to offer someone a juice box. He loved comic books, hated ketchup, and believed the woods behind Glenwood Park were magic. He wasn't the kind of child who wandered off. He wasn't troubled, wasn't reckless. He was, by all accounts, a good kid surrounded by teachers, parents, and 42 classmates on what should have been a safe, supervised school outing. When the group gathered for their final head count that afternoon, a single name echoed unanswered across the grassy field. Eli. He never answered. And despite the hundreds of volunteers, helicopters, dogs, and nationwide coverage, no one ever found out what happened to him, till Noah spoke up. And when he did, the past came back with a vengeance. It was a warm Wednesday morning in Glenwood, Oregon, and the air smelled like fresh grass and peanut butter sandwiches. Dozens of third graders from Glenwood Elementary were laughing and running through the wide fields of the national park. Their annual school picnic was in full swing. Parents had packed lunches, teachers had clipboards, and disposable cameras clicked every other minute, capturing smiling faces and sunny skies. 9-year-old Eli Turner was right in the middle of it all. He wore a red Ninja Turtles t-shirt and a baseball cap that was slightly too big for his head. Eli was known for being a gentle soul, curious, kind, and a little shy. That morning, he had shared half his sandwich with a classmate who forgot his lunch. His teacher, Mrs. Albright, later said Eli seemed quiet, but content. He wasn't the loudest kid, but he had a way of making people feel safe just by being around. After lunch, the kids split into groups to explore different areas of the park. Some went toward the lake, others hiked a short trail with their teacher. Eli was last seen near the old wooden bridge that crossed a shallow creek. He was with his best friend, Noah Barnes. They were laughing, tossing rocks into the water, pretending to be explorers on a secret mission. At some point, Noah ran ahead toward the ice cream van parked near the picnic tables. Eli didn't follow. No one thought anything of it at first. Maybe Eli was tying his shoe. Maybe he got distracted looking at a butterfly or wandered over to pick wildflowers. But 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 45. And when the final head count was called, Eli's name echoed across the field, unanswered. Eli. Has anyone seen Eli? Check the bathrooms. Check the trails. What began as mild confusion turned into panic within minutes. Teachers scrambled. Parents ran from one end of the park to the other. Rangers were called. Search dogs were brought in. Helicopters circled above. Eli's mother, Dana Turner, arrived before sunset. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she screamed her son's name into the darkening woods. The park was locked down by nightfall. Every trail, every bush, every creek bed was searched, but there was nothing. No footprints, no drag marks, no torn clothing. Just Eli's shoes, placed neatly beside the bench where he had last been seen, and his backpack still sitting on the picnic table, half a peanut butter sandwich inside, untouched. That was the last physical sign of Eli Turner. Eli, and from that moment, a quiet Oregon town would never be the There would have been blood. There would have been signs of a struggle. A 9-year-old boy doesn't vanish without a trace if a predator is involved. Then came the most painful theory of all. Maybe Eli had run away. Maybe there was something going on at home or in his life that no one knew about, but his family refused to believe that. His room was filled with drawings, comic books, and plans for his upcoming birthday. He had no reason to run, no childlike rebellion, no fear of home. Just a regular, quiet, happy boy. Despite all efforts, the investigation stalled. Weeks turned into months. The posters faded. The media moved on. Leads dried up. Tips stopped coming in. And eventually, the case was pushed into the back room of the police station, filed under one word that brought more pain than answers: cold. Detective Marla Jennings, who had led the early part of the case, once said in an interview, "It was like chasing smoke.
Ow.
No matter how hard we tried, we never got closer." And that haunted me for 30 years. There were no answers. Just a family stuck in the worst kind of waiting, not knowing if their son was alive or buried in the woods just beyond their reach. After Eli vanished, the Turner family's home changed overnight. The bright laughter that once filled their small house in Glenwood faded into silence. His bedroom was left untouched. The posters on the wall, the toys on the shelf, even his favorite sneakers by the door, they all stayed exactly where Eli had left them. His mother, Dana, would sit on his bed every evening, waiting for a sound that never came. She refused to believe he was gone forever. She said she could still feel him in the house, like he might walk through the front door at any moment, holding a new story from school. His father, Tom Turner, handled the pain differently. He threw himself into work and barely spoke. Every night, he sat on the porch with a flashlight staring into the trees. Sometimes, he would wander into the woods himself, calling Eli's name softly, over and over, like maybe his son had just been hiding this whole time and was too scared to come home. For years, they kept Eli's birthday tradition: chocolate cake, 9 candles, then 10, then 11. No celebration, just hope and heartbreak. While the Turners struggled to breathe through their grief, another boy in town was fighting a very different battle. Noah Barnes, Eli's best friend, stopped talking about that day entirely. At school, he became quiet and withdrawn. Teachers noticed that he would flinch when asked questions, started drawing strange pictures of forests, shadows, and a red baseball cap lying in the dirt. But when anyone asked what they meant, he would simply shake his head. His parents tried therapy. It didn't help. Noah refused to speak about the picnic, the bridge, or the last moment he saw Eli. One night, he told his mother he had seen something, but before she could ask what, he locked himself in the bathroom and cried for hours. Whatever he knew, whatever he remembered, he buried it deep inside, too deep to reach. As the years passed, Glenwood changed. New families moved in. The school built a new playground. The picnic tradition continued, but with tighter rules and smaller groups. People stopped talking about Eli out loud. Whispers became fewer. The posters came down. His photo in the school hallway started to fade from sunlight. Life moved on, but not for everyone. Some in town believed Eli had died that day. Others clung to stories about sightings, rumors that he had been taken and was still alive. But the truth is, no one knew anything. And that emptiness, that not knowing, was the most painful part of all. For 33 years, the Turner family never stopped waiting. And Noah never stopped carrying the weight of a secret that was slowly eating him from the inside out. It was a cloudy morning in June 2024. Almost exactly 33 years since Eli Turner disappeared. When a man walked through the doors of the Portland Police Department, he looked nervous. His hands were shaking. His eyes were tired and hollow, like someone who hadn't truly slept in years. That man was Noah Barnes, Eli's best friend from the picnic all those years ago. Noah had moved away from Glenwood not long after the disappearance. His parents believed a fresh start would help him heal. He grew up, changed his name for a while, and lived a quiet life far from Oregon. He never married. He never had children. And most importantly, he never spoke a single word to anyone about what happened that day in 1991. But now, at age 42, Noah had come back. Not to visit old friends. Not for closure. He had returned because the secret he had kept buried since childhood was finally breaking him apart. He asked to speak with a detective. At first, the officer at the front desk thought he might be mistaken. The case was 3 decades old, cold, silent, almost forgotten.
Ow.
But when Noah gave his name and said quietly, "It's about Eli Turner," everything changed. He was taken to a small interview room, the same kind you see in crime documentaries. A metal table, a recorder, 2 detectives with notepads and eyes full of curiosity. Noah sat down, took a deep breath, and began to tell the truth he had been running from for most of his life. His voice trembled. He paused often, but his words were clear. "I know what happened to Eli." Scared of what he might find. But now, after 33 years of silence, he told the police exactly where it was. Search teams entered the forest with GPS units, flashlights, and drones. The area was overgrown. They had tied to a tree as a swing was now covered in moss. But it was unmistakably a place that had once meant something to two boys. And in the middle of it all, half buried in the dirt beneath a pile of leaves, was a small object no one was ready for. It was Eli's red baseball cap, faded, dirty, but still clearly his. The search team called for backup immediately. Crime scene units arrived within the hour and began carefully digging through the soft forest floor. What they found next sent a cold wave through the entire investigation. It's just a few feet from the cap, wrapped in an old blue jacket, were the remains of a backpack matching the one Eli had brought to the picnic. Inside it, they found comic book pages, a melted action figure, and a spiral notebook with Eli's name written on the front. The last page had a single sentence scribbled in pencil. "He told me not to tell." The ground was tested, scanned, and searched for any sign of Eli's body, but it wasn't there. Still, this was no longer just a mystery. It was proof. Eli had been there. He had gone with someone. And that someone had left behind just enough to keep the secret buried. Until now, the forest had held on to the truth for over 3 decades. But the silence was finally breaking. When detectives asked Noah to go deeper to explain what exactly happened at the creek, Daya's hands began to tremble. Wasn't taken by an animal. He had been threatened by someone he knew. Someone close. Close enough for Eli to believe the threat. Close enough that he would rather vanish into the woods than risk speaking out loud. And Noah had carried that secret like a shadow his whole life. The detectives now had a chilling new angle. Someone among them, maybe someone who was there that day, had scared Eli into silence. And that someone had stayed hidden for 3 decades. When detectives pieced together Noah's story, the message became painfully clear and hadn't wandered off. He had been threatened. That meant someone had scared him, someone he recognized, someone who could get close to a child without raising suspicion. So investigators started looking back at every adult who had been at that picnic, teachers, volunteers, park staff, parents, for the first time in decades. Names that had long faded into old case files were being reviewed with fresh eyes. One name kept coming up, a man who had never seemed suspicious before. Mr. Granger. He was the school's janitor back in 1991. Friendly, soft-spoken. Known for fixing broken desks and handing out extra pencils. Kids liked him. Teachers trusted him. He wasn't an official chaperone that day, but he had shown up at the picnic to help carry supplies. Everyone thought he was just being kind. But when detectives pulled his personnel file, something strange appeared. A complaint had been filed just 2 months before Eli's disappearance. A teacher had reported that Mr. Granger made some students feel uncomfortable. It was never investigated further. There was no follow-up. Back then, schools didn't take those warnings as seriously as they do now. Digging deeper, police found more red flags. After the picnic, Mr. Granger resigned without warning. He moved out of state the very next week. No one thought twice about it at the time. But now, it looked a lot like someone trying to disappear. They tracked him down in Montana, where he'd been living under a different name. He was retired, in his 70s, living alone. When detectives arrived at his door in late 2024, he didn't ask why they were there, simply looked at the ground and said, "It took you long enough." What followed was one of the most disturbing interviews in Oregon's criminal history. Mr. Granger confessed to isolating Eli during the picnic, luring him into the woods with the promise of showing him a hidden trail. He admitted he had warned Eli not to tell anyone. That's when Eli ran. Mr. Granger said he never meant to hurt him, just scare him. But when Eli disappeared and didn't come back, Granger panicked and stayed silent all these years. It was a lie, of course. Eli never returned because something happened in those woods, something Granger had tried to bury forever. But here's the most heartbreaking part. There had been clues, little signs, warnings, but no one connected them. The system had failed Eli not just on that day, but in the way it let his case go cold, the way it let a man like Granger walk away and vanish into a quiet retirement, while the Turners lived in endless grief. Justice took 33 years, but it finally came knocking. When news of Mr. Granger's arrest broke, the town of Glenwood fell silent. Many couldn't believe it. Others said they always felt something was off about him, but never imagined he could be capable of something so dark. Parents who had once trusted him were now left sick with guilt. And former teachers who had worked alongside him struggled to forgive themselves for missing the signs. The local elementary school held a candlelight vigil for Eli Turner the following week. Hundreds of people showed up: teachers, old classmates, neighbors. Sometimes justice comes late. Sometimes it hurts more than it heals. But when truth finally rises, even after 33 years, it brings a kind of peace that silence never could. And that is the story of Eli Turner. A little boy who vanished in the middle of a sunny school picnic. A best friend who carried a secret no child should ever have to hold. And a town that learned too late how easily darkness can hide behind a familiar face. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something: sadness, anger, or even just curiosity, then don't let it fade. Share Eli's story. Speak up when something feels off. And most of all, listen really. Listen when a child says they're scared. Because silence sometimes is the loudest cry for help. Thank you for watching. If you want more real-life mysteries, haunting truths, and long-forgotten cases that deserve to be heard, subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so you never miss a story that matters. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and never stop asking questions.